At just 22 years old, she was forced to marry a homeless beggar, and the entire village laughed at her shame. But one day, something happened that turned her humiliation into the greatest miracle of her life. What secret did this beggar hold that later made him reveal his true identity as one of Nigeria's wealthiest men? Sit back with your popcorn and find out as we delve into this story. The afternoon sun burned hot over Enugu village. The red earth roads were dry and dusty. At the village market, women shouted prices of tomatoes and yams, while children ran between the stalls, their feet covered in red dust. In one quiet corner, 22-year-old Anwuli sat on a wooden bench, her head bowed low. Her caramel skin glistened with sweat as she arranged ground nuts on her small tray. Her mother, Mama Grace, had sent her to the market early that morning, but hours had passed and she had sold almost nothing. From across the market square, whispers began. Look at Grace's daughter, still not married at her age. Her father left them with so much debt. Who will marry a girl like that? The women shook their heads and laughed. Anwuli heard it all. Her fingers trembled as she arranged the ground nuts, her eyes filling with tears. At the edge of the market, near the old palm tree, a man sat quietly on the ground. His clothes were torn and dirty, his hair rough and uncombed. In front of him was a small begging bowl. People passed him without a second glance, throwing coins or stepping over him like he was invisible. This man was called Obinna, a homeless wanderer who had appeared in the village weeks ago. Nobody knew where he came from. Nobody cared. That afternoon, something happened that changed everything. Mama Grace had come to the market to check on her daughter when the heat became too much for her. Her vision blurred and she stumbled, her legs giving way beneath her. "Mama!" Anwuli screamed, dropping her tray as ground nuts scattered everywhere. She ran toward her mother, who had already collapsed on the ground. Women gathered around, shouting and pointing, but nobody helped. They only stared. Then, from the edge of the market, Obinna rose to his feet and moved quickly, his torn clothes flapping as he ran. He reached Mama Grace before anyone else, gently lifting her head and placing it on his lap. "Please, somebody bring water," he called out calmly. A young boy brought water in a cup, and Obinna pressed it to Mama Grace's lips. Slowly she began to drink and her eyes fluttered open. Anwuli knelt beside them, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," Mama Grace whispered weakly. "Thank you for helping me." Obinna smiled gently. "It is nothing, Mama. I only did what any human should do." He helped her sit up slowly as the villagers whispered around them. "Even the beggar has more heart than the rest of us." "But what can a beggar offer? He has nothing." Obinna stood quietly and walked back to his place under the palm tree, and Anwuli watched him go, something stirring in her heart. That evening, Anwuli helped her mother walk home to their small house with cracked walls and a leaking roof. Inside, Mama Grace sat on a low stool, her breathing still heavy. "Mama, you need to rest," Anwuli said gently, but Mama Grace shook her head. "Anwuli, my daughter, sit down. We need to talk." Anwuli sat on the floor beside her mother, her heart already heavy. Mama Grace's eyes filled with tears as she spoke. "My daughter, I am tired. I am tired of this suffering. I am tired of seeing you mocked every day. You are 22 years old. You should be married by now." Anwuli protested softly, but her mother continued firmly. "That beggar who helped me today has a good heart. He is better than all these proud men in this village. I am saying you will marry him." Anwuli's eyes widened in shock. "Mama, no. Please, no. He is a beggar. He has nothing." Mama Grace held her daughter's hand tightly. "Listen to me, my child. Money does not make a man. Character does. That beggar showed me more kindness today than any rich man has shown us in years. I have already spoken to him. He agreed." Tears rolled down Anwuli's cheeks as her whole body shook. "Mama, you cannot do this to me." But Mama Grace pulled her close. "I am doing this because I love you. Trust me, my child. This is your destiny." That night, Anwuli could not sleep, staring at the ceiling with fear and confusion in her heart. The news of Anwuli's marriage spread through the village like wildfire. At the village square, women gathered in clusters, whispering and laughing. "Have you heard? Grace is marrying her daughter to that homeless man. The one who begs at the market? What a disgrace. Chief Nduka, the wealthiest man in the village, stood under the big iroko tree with his walking stick. When he heard the news, he threw his head back and laughed. So Grace has finally gone mad. She is marrying her daughter to a beggar. What a curse on that family. His friends laughed with him. That girl was always destined for poverty. Near the village well, Anwuli's cousin Ifunanya stood with her friends, flipping her hair with pride. Can you imagine? My own cousin is marrying a street beggar. I am so ashamed. I will not disgrace myself by attending that wedding. They all laughed together while Anwuli prepared for her wedding in silence. There was no white dress, no church bells, no big celebration. Just a simple ceremony under the village tree. That afternoon, Anwuli wore a simple yellow wrapper and blouse, with her hair braided neatly. She had no makeup, no jewelry. Obinna arrived wearing the same torn but washed clothes. When he saw her, he smiled gently. "You look beautiful." Anwuli could not smile back as tears filled her eyes. Obinna stepped closer and took her hand. "Anwuli, I am not here by accident. I chose this. I chose you. And I promise you, I will never make you regret it." The pastor began the ceremony while a few villagers stood at a distance, watching and whispering. Some laughed. Others shook their heads. Chief Nduka passed by and spat on the ground. What a waste of a fine girl. But Obinna did not flinch, holding Anwuli's hand and repeating his vows clearly. "I, Obinna, take you, Anwuli, as my wife. I will honor you. I will protect you. I will love you all the days of my life." Anwuli's voice shook as she repeated her own vows. After the ceremony, Obinna led Anwuli to a small abandoned hut at the edge of the village. It had been empty for years with a broken roof and cracked walls. "This is where we will stay for now," Obinna said calmly. Anwuli's heart sank as she looked around, but she said nothing. That night, Obinna swept the floor clean, covered the holes in the roof with old zinc sheets, and brought water from the stream to wash the walls. "Why are you doing all this?" Anwuli finally asked. Obinna looked at her and smiled. "Because this is our home, and every home, no matter how small, deserves care." He came closer and sat beside her. "Anwuli, I know this is hard. I know you did not choose this, but I want you to know something. I see you. I see your kindness. I see your strength. And one day, the whole world will see it too." Anwuli stared at him, confused. "How can you say that? You are a beggar. I am a poor girl. What future do we have?" Obinna's eyes held a strange light. "You will see, Anwuli. You will see." Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Life in the small hut was not easy. But Anwuli began to notice something strange about Obinna. Every morning he woke up early and fetched water before she could. He swept the compound, cooked meals with her. And at night he would sit and talk with her about life, about dreams, about the world beyond the village. One evening he asked, "Anwuli, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be?" She thought for a moment. "I wanted to go to school. I wanted to finish my education. But my father died and there was no money." Obinna nodded slowly. "Then we will make sure you go back to school." Anwuli laughed bitterly. "With what money? We barely have food to eat." But Obinna only smiled. "Trust me." The next week, Obinna brought her old textbooks from the village school. "Where did you get these?" Anwuli asked in shock. "I have my ways. Now sit. Let me teach you." Every evening, Obinna taught Anwuli how to read better, write essays, and solve mathematics. She was amazed. "How do you know all this?" "You are a beggar. How can you be so educated?" Obinna looked at her with that same calm smile. "Just because a man has no money does not mean he has no knowledge. Never judge a book by its cover." Anwuli was beginning to realize that Obinna was not an ordinary man, though she could not yet understand who he truly was. Meanwhile, the village continued to mock them. One afternoon, Anwuli went to the market to buy gari. As she walked past a group of women, they whispered loudly, "Look at her. The beggar's wife. She is growing thin. He cannot even feed her." Anwuli's hands trembled as she paid for the gari and walked home with her head bowed. When she entered the hut, Obinna saw her face. "What happened?" he asked gently. Anwuli broke down in tears. "I cannot take it anymore. Every day they laugh at me. Every day they call you a beggar. Every day I am ashamed." Obinna pulled her close and held her. "Anwuli, listen to me. Their words cannot define you. Their laughter cannot break you. You are stronger than you know. And very soon, those same people will bow before you." Anwuli looked up at him through her tears. "How can you be so sure?" Obinna wiped her tears gently. "Because I know something they don't." One day, Ifunanya came to visit and stood outside the hut with her nose wrinkled in disgust. "Anwuli, is this where you live now? This is a chicken coop. You have really disgraced our family." When Obinna stepped out and greeted her calmly, Ifunanya looked him up and down with disgust. "So you are the beggar who trapped my cousin." Obinna smiled gently. "I did not trap anyone. Your cousin is here by choice. One day, Ifunanya, you will understand the truth." Ifunanya laughed loudly. "The only truth is that you are a nobody, a worthless beggar who will amount to nothing." One bright Monday morning, the village woke up to a strange sound. The deep rumble of engines. Heavy vehicles. 3 large black SUVs drove slowly down the red earth road, their tires kicking up dust. Children ran after them, shouting with excitement, while women stopped their work and stared. Men left their farms and gathered at the village square. "Who are these people? Is the governor coming?" Chief Nduka stood tall, adjusting his wrapper proudly. "They must have come to see me. I am the only man of importance in this village." But the SUVs drove past the village square, past Chief Nduka's mansion, past the market, and stopped directly in front of the small broken hut where Anwuli and Obinna lived. The entire village held its breath. Anwuli was inside sweeping when she heard the engines. She stepped outside, her eyes wide with fear. "Obinna, there are big cars outside. What is happening?" Obinna was sitting calmly, reading one of the old textbooks. He looked up and smiled. "Do not be afraid, Anwuli. Everything is fine." The doors of the SUVs opened and 6 men in black suits stepped out. They wore dark sunglasses and moved with military precision. The villagers gasped. Then from the center SUV, another man stepped out, tall and well-dressed. He walked straight toward Obinna, and the entire village watched in stunned silence. The man stopped in front of Obinna and bowed deeply. "Good morning, sir. We have been searching for you." Anwuli's mouth fell open. "Sir?" The villagers began to whisper louder. Did he just call the beggar sir? What is going on here? Obinna stood up slowly, his torn clothes suddenly seeming out of place. His calm demeanor now carried a different weight. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Williams," Obinna said in a voice that was no longer that of a beggar, but of a man in command. Mr. Williams nodded. "Sir, the board has been waiting. Your father's company needs you. It is time to return." Anwuli stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth. "Obinna, what is this? Who are these people?" Before he could answer, Chief Nduka pushed through the crowd, his walking stick raised high. "What is the meaning of this? Who are you people, and why are you calling this beggar sir?" Mr. Williams turned slowly to face Chief Nduka, his voice cold. "This man you call a beggar is Obinna Eze, the rightful heir and CEO of Eze Holdings, one of the largest corporations in Nigeria." The entire village froze. Chief Nduka's walking stick fell from his hand. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The women who had mocked Anwuli stood with their hands on their heads. "Eze Holdings? The company that built the international airport in Lagos? The same one that owns hotels all over Nigeria?" Mr. Williams continued. "Mr. Eze left Lagos 3 months ago to live among ordinary people. He wanted to find a woman who would love him for his heart, not his wealth. And he found her." All eyes turned to Anwuli, who stood frozen, her body trembling as tears streamed down her face. Obinna walked over to Anwuli and took her hands. "Anwuli, I am sorry I did not tell you sooner. But I needed to know. I needed to know if you would love me even when I had nothing. You are a billionaire?" Anwuli's voice shook. Obinna nodded. "Yes. But more than that, I am your husband. And you, Anwuli, are the only woman in this village who saw me as a human being. You and your mother. You did not mock me. You did not spit on me. You loved me even when you thought I had nothing. That is why I chose you." Anwuli collapsed into his arms, sobbing. "I do not understand." Obinna held her tightly. "You do not need to understand everything today. Just know this. You are now the wife of one of the richest men in Nigeria, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never suffer again." Ifunanya suddenly pushed forward from the back of the crowd. "Anwuli, my dear cousin, I always knew you were special. I always supported you." Anwuli turned slowly to look at her, remembering every word of mockery. "Ifunanya, you called me a disgrace. You said I trapped a beggar. You said you were ashamed to call me your cousin." Ifunanya's fake smile faded. "I was only joking." Obinna stepped forward. "No, she was not joking. And now she must live with her words." Chief Nduka fell to his knees. "Mr. S, please forgive me. I did not know who you were." Obinna looked down at him coldly. "You did not need to know who I was to treat me with respect. You mocked me because I was poor. You insulted my wife because she had nothing." Mr. Williams stepped forward. "Sir, the helicopter is waiting. We need to take you and your wife to Lagos." The helicopter ride to Lagos was like a dream. Anwuli sat beside Obinna, her hands gripping the seat tightly, as she had never been in the air before. Below them, the village grew smaller until it disappeared. Mama Grace sat across from them, her eyes filled with wonder and tears. When they landed, Anwuli stepped out and gasped. In front of her was a mansion, more than a mansion, a palace. The building stretched wide with tall glass windows, marble columns, and a fountain in the center. Security guards stood at attention, and workers in uniform bowed as Obinna walked past. "Welcome home, sir," they said in unison. Anwuli could barely walk as Obinna held her hand and led her inside. The interior was even more breathtaking, with chandeliers hanging from the ceiling and floors so shiny she could see her reflection. "This is where you live?" Anwuli whispered. Obinna smiled. "This is where we live, Anwuli. This is your home now." A woman in a blue uniform approached them. "Good evening, sir. Madam, welcome. I am Mrs. Adebayo, the head of house staff." That evening, Obinna sat with Anwuli and Mama Grace in the large sitting room. "This wealth means nothing to me if I cannot share it with people who have good hearts. Anwuli, you married me when you thought I had nothing. You did not ask for money or status. You only gave me respect and kindness. That is worth more than all the gold in the world." Mama Grace wiped her tears. "I forced my daughter to marry you because I saw goodness in your eyes." "I did not know you were this wealthy." Obinna smiled. "You did not need to know, Mama. You saw what mattered." The days that followed were like a whirlwind. Anwuli was taken to the finest boutiques in Lagos and given new clothes, shoes, and jewelry. Designers came to the house to style her hair, while makeup artists taught her beauty techniques. But even with all the luxury, Anwuli remained humble, never forgetting where she came from. One afternoon, Obinna took her to his office, a building over 20 floors high with his name written in gold letters at the entrance. Easy Holdings. Anwuli walked through the halls as every worker bowed to her. "Good afternoon, madam." In Obinna's office, he showed her the view of Lagos from the top floor. The city stretched out before them, glittering in the afternoon sun. "This is my world, Anwuli, but it means nothing without you." Anwuli turned to him with tears in her eyes. "Why me, Obinna? Out of all the women in the world, why did you choose me?" Obinna took her hands. "Because you saw a man when others saw a beggar. Because you treated me with dignity when I had nothing to offer. Because your heart is pure. That is why." Anwuli rested her head on his chest and wept, feeling truly valued for the first time in her life. Months passed and Anwuli's transformation was complete. She was no longer the poor village girl, but the wife of a billionaire CEO. Yet she did not forget her roots. She spoke to Obinna one evening. "I want to do something for the village." Obinna smiled. "What do you have in mind?" Anwuli's eyes shone with purpose. "I want to build a school, a hospital. I want to help the women who are suffering just like I was." Obinna's smile widened. "Then we will do it. Together." They returned to Enugu village, but this time it was different. The entire village gathered at the square with no mockery, only silence and shame. Obinna stood tall, dressed in a sharp suit, while Anwuli stood beside him, glowing in a beautiful dress. "People of Enugu," Obinna began, "I came to this village as a beggar. You mocked me. You spat on me. You called me worthless. But one family showed me kindness. And because of that kindness, I will now bless this entire village. I am building a school here, a modern school, with the best teachers. I am building a hospital so that no mother will faint in the market without help. I am providing clean water and electricity to every home." The villagers erupted in tears and shouts of joy. Obinna raised his hand. "But know this, I am not doing this because you deserve it. I am doing it because my wife, Anwuli, asked me to. She has a heart of gold. Learn from her." All eyes turned to Anwuli. Chief Nduka stepped forward, his head bowed. "Madam Anwuli, please forgive me. I was foolish. I was wicked. I mocked you and your husband." Anwuli looked at him for a long moment before speaking softly. "No, Chief, I forgive you. But I want you to remember this. Never judge a person by their appearance. Never mock someone because they are poor. You never know who they truly are." Chief Nduka wept openly. Ifunanya also came forward, her face wet with tears. "Anwuli, my cousin, I am so sorry. I was jealous. I was proud. Please forgive me." Anwuli's eyes softened. "Ifunanya, I forgive you too. But I hope you have learned your lesson." Over the next year, Obinna kept his promise. A beautiful school was built in the village with computers, libraries, and playgrounds. The hospital was equipped with modern machines and skilled doctors. Clean water flowed through new pipes to every home. Anwuli also started a foundation called the Grace Foundation, named after her mother. It provided scholarships for young girls who could not afford school, gave business loans to struggling women, and offered free medical care to the elderly. The village that once mocked Anwuli now celebrated her. They sang her praises and told her story to their children. She became a legend. But the most powerful moment came 6 months after the school opened. Anwuli visited the village to attend the school's first graduation ceremony. As she walked through the gates, she saw young girls in their uniforms, laughing and playing. Their faces were bright with hope. One little girl ran up to her and hugged her legs tightly. "Thank you, Auntie Anwuli. Because of you, I can read now. My mama says I will become a doctor one day." Anwuli bent down and looked into the girl's eyes. She saw herself in that child. The same poverty, the same struggle, but now a different future. Tears filled her eyes as she held the girl close. "Yes, my dear, you will become anything you want to be. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." As she stood to address the gathering, she saw familiar faces in the crowd. Women who once mocked her now sat with their daughters, grateful for the opportunity Anwuli had given them. Chief Nduka sat quietly at the back, his head still bowed in shame. Ifunanya was there too, working as a volunteer teacher at the school. She had begged Anwuli for a chance to make amends, and Anwuli had given it to her. "My people," Anwuli began, her voice steady and strong. "I stand before you today, not as someone better than you, but as someone who understands your pain. I know what it means to be hungry. I know what it means to be mocked. I know what it means to feel worthless. But I also know something else. I know that your current situation does not define your future. God can turn your life around in one single moment. Never give up. Never stop believing. And most importantly, never lose your kindness. It was kindness that saved me. It was kindness that brought me here today." The crowd erupted in applause, many wiping tears from their eyes. After the ceremony, Mama Grace pulled Anwuli aside. "My daughter, I want to tell you something. The day I forced you to marry that beggar, you thought I was destroying your life. You cried all night, but I saw something in that man's eyes. I saw dignity. I saw honor. I saw a future. Sometimes God's blessings come in the most unexpected packages. I am so proud of the woman you have become." Anwuli embraced her mother tightly. "Mama, you saved my life. If you had not made that decision, I would still be selling groundnuts at the market, still being mocked, still suffering. You saw what I could not see. Thank you, Mama. Thank you for believing in something greater." That evening, as they drove back to Lagos, Obinna reached over and held Anwuli's hand. "You spoke well today. You gave those people hope." Anwuli looked out the window at the passing villages. "I gave them what someone once gave me. A second chance." One evening, as the sun set over Lagos, Anwuli and Obinna stood on the balcony of their home. Mama Grace sat inside playing with her grandchildren, yes. Anwuli and Obinna now had twins. "Do you ever regret it?" Anwuli asked softly. "Regret what?" Obinna replied. "Choosing me, a poor village girl. You could have married anyone." Obinna turned to her and smiled. "Anwuli, you are not just anyone. You are the woman who saw my heart when the world only saw rags. You are the woman who loved me when I had nothing to give. You are my blessing." Anwuli smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "And you are mine." They held hands as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. From dust to destiny, from shame to honor, from poverty to purpose. And so ended the story of Anwuli, the village girl who married a beggar and discovered he was a billionaire. But more than that, she discovered that true wealth is not found in money. It is found in the heart. Dear viewers, Anwuli's story teaches us something very powerful. Never judge a person by their outward appearance. The person you mock today may be the one who blesses you tomorrow. Kindness, humility, and a pure heart will always open doors that money cannot buy. What do you think about Anwuli's journey? Share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to read from you. There is another very interesting story I'll be uploading in a few days. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell, so you'll be the first to know when it drops. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next story.